You're back with the Powerful Communication Podcast. So it was interesting in this game to think about the future. You know, and can you get that kind of early advantage? Can you get that prediction? Are you able to look ahead with a degree of confidence and adapt accordingly? And there's some people make a living out of that. They put words like futurist in their job title and make a lot of money speaking at conferences. And you can always look up like how much of what they say actually happens. I pride myself, I'll be honest, on this podcast and across my LinkedIn. You can look back, listen back and look through everything I've said, how much of it actually happened, how much of it came to pass. And I don't swan around calling myself a futurist. I just say it as I see it. And quite often, it happens. And I remember having some really heated discussions with people, and some of it's on this podcast, during the COVID lockdown about what the role of the state was. Because I was absolutely adamant, although I totally complied with the lockdown, and so did the whole family, I didn't like it. And I thought it was a huge overreach on the part of the government. I thought it was absolutely out of order. But I had some very socially distant, heated arguments with people I work with, people in the family, where I was saying it's not the role of the state to keep people safe. And they would argue back, yes, it is. And I would be like, no, it isn't. Because if it was, everywhere would have a 20 mile an hour speed limit. And we would ban kids from using social media and a whole heap of other things as well. Smoking was one, as the smoking would be completely banned. And there'd be a ban on heading footballs. That was another one. Well, look at what's happening. Smoking's getting completely phased out. And there's a ban on under 16s, so there's going to be a ban on under 16s using social media. Again, by the way, I'm supportive of that. I hope it works. I think it's a good idea. I think it will help people. I think it will save lives. I personally still don't believe that it should be the role of the state to keep people safe. But as somebody much smarter than me pointed out to me a couple of years ago, that it has become that. Rightly or wrongly, whatever you think of it, whatever you and I agree with, it has become the role of the state to keep people safe. And the person I was talking to said to me, listen, what you have to remember, Colin, is that here in the UK, he said, you're living in an advanced Western democracy. And what that basically means is that the government has run out of things that it can do to improve our lives. We're incredibly fortunate in this country, and my goodness, yes, there's a ton of stuff that goes wrong. And of course, just last week, we saw some very unsavoury, horrifying incidents. But compared to other countries in other parts of the world, Britain is incredibly stable, and we can deal with some very difficult issues and have very heated arguments and protests. And yes, sometimes there's a small minority that take it too far and it gets very ugly. But by and large, this is a country that can deal with some very difficult things and remain stable and peaceful. I'm not saying it's been easy. What I'm saying is, in the grand scheme of things, compared to other countries, our day-to-day lives, mercifully, are incredibly stable. We're very lucky to live in a country like that, an advanced Western democracy. What that means, though, is the government's run out of things that it can do. Because the work's already been done. It's all done. And they're very limited with the money that they can raise or the money that they can spend. So what they end up doing is stuff that is popular with people, but that doesn't really cost much money, like a ban on social media for under 16s, like legislation to completely end and phase out smoking. The best of the lot is where they come up with something that's popular, that most people agree is needed, and actually makes the state money. And for that, I give you Exhibit C, the sugar tax. These are things that 40, 50 years ago, okay, social media didn't exist, but 40, 50 years ago, the government in the UK would never have intervened in our lives to that extent. Now they are, because there's nothing else for them to do. We're in an advanced, stable Western democracy that just happens to have no money. Now, what's interesting is if it has become the role of the state to keep people safe, which I maintain it has, then we will see far stricter speed limits right across the board. And I believe, and I think this will take some years, but I think it will happen, a ban on social media for everyone. I'm saying it now. I think it could take 5 to 10 years that there will be a complete ban on social media for everyone. Now, I am aware that in a free democracy, that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but you'll appreciate, because I'm sure the same thing happens to you, that almost every adult you speak to wants and wishes that they could spend less time on social media. It is absolutely ripe for the government to come in and say, oh, we can give you what you want. And I wonder if there's a way that they'll even make money out of it in the process. So I think the government is looking at social media and thinking, well, you've got businesses that want to speak to businesses. You've got businesses that want to speak to consumers. But you've got all this risk and nasty stuff, and all this extreme stuff all around it. Well, we'll make that really simple. We'll have our own. We'll have our own UK government social network where you'll be able to go on and speak to each other and interact, and we'll make sure it's kept clean and neat and tidy and nobody gets hurt, and we'll make money out of it. And some of you listen to that and you're thinking, this is outrageous. This is like state control. This is like something that we might expect in China. Not at all. In fact, this is something that we've had before. This is something that the UK government has already done, albeit in a very different form. And I introduce you to Exhibit D, the good old Yellow Pages. When the Yellow Pages began in 1969, what was it? A government-owned, government-controlled advertising monopoly. That's it. They did it. Everybody got a free basic listing, and they made a ton of money out of businesses wanting more. So a bigger font, a bigger display ad, a second phone number, a physical address, all the way up to half page, quarter page, full page, glossy advertising listings. Albeit back then it wasn't glossy and it wasn't colour. They did it and they took the cash, and businesses handed over the cash. If they did it in the 60s, 70s and 80s, I'm telling you, all these things are cyclical. They can do it again. I'll guarantee you there's someone right now in government looking at all that money flowing out of here to Meta and X and Microsoft and all these, and thinking, hang on a minute, you've got an entire population that hates this stuff and wants off it, but believes that they have a need to somehow keep up with each other, businesses that think it's essential for their communication, and we're losing money to people doing all that on a service that they hate and that's making them ill. Happy days. I mean, if ever there's a situation that's ripe for government intervention, where we've established now that, rightly or wrongly, and wrongly in my view, but it's a reality, that it has become the role of the state to keep people safe, I absolutely expect that to continue onto our adult digital lives. And I'll say it now, and I know it sounds ridiculous, 5 to 10 years, a complete social media ban for adults as well, replaced by a government-run, government-owned, nationalised social media service in the UK.